Well, we'll get started and when Mr. Hamilton gets here, he gets here. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 11th Portsmouth Town Council meeting. Just need to go through our emergency evacuation procedures in the event of an emergency. You have two doors on your left, another one in the front here. We'd exit the building, cross Middle Road, and we'll meet at the school administration building and wait further instructions at that time. And what we'll do is we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Okay. Thank you all. Okay, I just need to go through some of the rules. This is a live stream meeting as well tonight via Zoom. For those of you participating via Zoom, there's an icon to click to raise it to indicate you have a question. If you're calling in by phone, you can use *6 to mute and unmute your phone, and *9 will indicate that you have a question. For those of you participating remotely or in person tonight, if you have a chance to speak at the podium, please state your name and address for the clerk. And with that, we'll begin with our roll call.
Ms. Abbott? Here. Mr. Kelly? Here. Mr. Katzman?
Here.
Mr. Aguilar?
Here. I don't know. I saw him come through the door. We have a quorum, so we can continue. I do not have anything to update on the president's executive summary. I do have a notice or an announcement to make regarding new business item number 2, which was the resolution in support of Rhode Island 22H8055, an act relating to waters and navigation, Coastal Resource Management Council. That item has been withdrawn from our agenda, so we will not be hearing that tonight. So what that means is it's been withdrawn. It's not being rescheduled or anything like that for future meetings. It has been withdrawn from the agenda. It could be brought back in the future, but at the moment it is withdrawn. So I unfortunately can't take any comments on it. But just, I know some of you folks are here for that item, and so that item has been withdrawn from the agenda, will not be heard tonight. Okay. So if you were here for that, you're free to leave. You do not have to, you don't have to sit and listen.
To be clear, you're always free to leave.
You're always free to leave. You could zoom in if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay, we will now move to our consent agenda.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. First item is a peddler's license, mobile food establishment, new Allison Rosario, DBA JA Patty RI Catering and Events, 560 Mineral Spring Ave, Unit 2136, Pawtucket, 1 vehicle.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. We also have Newport Creamery LLC, 35 Saconaset Cross Road, Cranston, 1 vehicle.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a peddler's license specific event, Rugby Imports Limited, 885 Warren Ave, East Providence, for the Beast of the East Collegiate Rugby Tournament, Gardner 70 Sports Complex, April 23rd and 24th.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. And next, we have a request to advertise for a public hearing. It's an application for Class BV beverage license for Narragansett Bay Club Amenity LLC, DBA Narragansett Bay Club, 195 Newport Harbor Drive. So when would that be?
May, first or second meeting in May? The 9th or the 24th, right? Well, I'm sure they would like to have a notification before the Memorial Day weekend, so why don't we do it on
The
motion
9th.
to schedule a public hearing for May 9th? Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye, motion passes.
It seems
5-0.
like everybody's speaker was turned up
It's a little
on your,
feedback.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn as a Board of License Commissioners. Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have tax vouchers. It's request approval of tax voucher 2022-04-11-01.
Motion to approve is presented?
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. And moving on to our town administrators report, Mr. Rayner.
Good evening, Mr. President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. The Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank has announced a $4.9 million in action grants for participants of the Municipal Resilience Program. Portsmouth is one of the 20 municipalities to have completed the Community Resilience Building Workshops and further develop prioritized lists of actionable resilience plans and projects. So as a result, Portsmouth will receive $140,000 to apply towards a stormwater injection facility and green infrastructure at Riverside Street and dredging at Founder's Brook to remove silt and vegetation buildup to address water quality concerns and reduce flooding. With respect to the budget, after we posted the proposed budget on the 31st, the finance director and I were made aware that the anticipated motor vehicle tax revenue exceeded an amount allowable. This has never been an issue before, but recent and current events have driven motor vehicle valuations to historic highs. We therefore had to revise the proposed budget and did so in a way to keep the tax rates in line with what was originally published. The budget with changes was posted to the finance webpage last Friday, and updated pages have been distributed to you for inclusion in your binders. The Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council, CRMC, will hold a public hearing at 6 p.m. on Thursday, April 21st, in the planning board room, which is just adjacent to the chamber here. Parties interested in or concerned are invited to be present and or represented by counsel. More information is available on our website or by contacting CRMC. And that is the reason for that public hearing is to discuss 5 potential CRMC right-of-way designations in Portsmouth. The Butts Hill Forts Restoration Committee will be conducting a volunteer cleaning event on Saturday, April 23rd from 8 in the morning till 12:30. Detailed instructions will be provided to all volunteers upon their arrival. The group will rent 2 30-yard dumpsters and a portable toilet, and will coordinate with DPW prior to the event to arrange for opening the gate and to receive advice on where to locate dumpsters and to stack material suitable for chipping. And then lastly, just another reminder that the town is seeking public input on a Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. We will hold the first of 2 workshops this coming Wednesday, April 13th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Portsmouth Middle School. Please visit the Recreation Department webpage or contact our Recreation Director, Wendy Balk, to learn more about this important project. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Okay, we're going to move on to the resignations and appointments. And the first item was the reappointment to the Board of Canvassers. Yes.
Thank you. I was a little surprised to see this on the agenda because this council appointed Ms. Vadney just a couple of years ago. Let's see, bear with me one moment. She was appointed on February 2nd, February 10th, 2020. And although it was to fill a slot of a resignation, in fact, all appointments to the Board of Canvassers are for 6 years. Whether it's filling someone's prior slot, if you will, or not. And there's, so the statute reads that the appointing authority shall serve a term of 6 years. So each canvassing, and we can appoint only for that 6-year term. And there's actually case law that says a date like that in a statute can't be changed by a council. When we appoint someone to the Board of Canvassers, it's for 6 years. So I appreciate Ms. Vadney wanting to continue to serve, but I don't believe her term has expired and she is still a valid board member. I would defer to the solicitor if he has any further thoughts on that. But my review of the statute and cases that it cites refers to only a 6 year. In fact, there were cases where people wanted to try to oust someone who had been appointed because they were no longer a member of the party that they were when they were appointed. And the court said, nope, 6 years is 6 years. So I understand.
Okay, so Mr. Gavin?
I have nothing to add. I didn't realize there was an issue tonight, but Len explained it adequately. So I would concur with Len.
Okay, so no need to reappoint. She's good to go
And congratulations on the,
on the continued
Continuing.
service. On the continued
For
service.
your next 4 years.
that's it.
All right, so then let's move on to the pension investment reappointment.
Move to reappoint Mr. Pope.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Capson?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to old business. It's the continuation of our public hearing for the comprehensive community plan. Mr. Crosby.
Thank you, Mr. President. As everybody in this room, I'm sure knows,
The microphone.
We got a green light up there?
it's a green light. Thank you, Mr. President. As everybody in this room knows, we have been conducting a serial public hearing about the comprehensive plan and adopting, temporarily adopting as we go along. The last meeting that took place last week included the water supply element, the transportation element, the natural hazards element, and the land use element. As we have been doing, we start out each meeting with the corrections from the last meeting, and tonight we have transportation. We have water element changes, no changes. We have transportation elements on page 10-3, the second paragraph of section 10.4.1 changed the last sentence to read, with the addition of traffic signals at Linden Lane later this year, East Main Road will have 12 signalized intersections. In the first paragraph, change on page 10.4, the first paragraph, change to number of signalized intersection on from 8 to 9, as Mr. Hamilton suggested. And then on page 10.9, the end of the first paragraph, we added a limited stop express bus Route 61X operates from the Tiverton Park and Ride at Fish Road to and from Providence with a single stop in Portsmouth at the Park and Ride on Boyd's Lane. 3 a.m. inbound trips and 3 p.m. outbound trips are provided Monday through Friday. And then for natural hazards and climate change element, we elevated in table 1.1 on page 11.3, we elevated sea level rise to a medium level of risk category instead of the low level that was originally printed in the document. And there were no changes in the land use element. So that takes care of the changes that we put in, the council wanted to put in place for the from last week's meeting. So what we have here before the council tonight is to vote to amend the town code part 2 general legislation by adding a new chapter, sections, chapter and sections, chapter 1.31 comprehensive community plan by adopting the ordinance that you have in front of you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Crosby?
Just for the record, I went back and counted East Main Road again, missed the one at Transcom. So I'm dating myself. So those of you who know where Transcom is. So it's 12. Exactly. So it went from 11 to 12.
I did the same with Google Earth.
Yeah. I got stuck at it. I was like, oops, we missed that one. A motion to adopt. Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Used to be. Transcom.
My house used to be next door and it was moved.
There you go.
Sorry.
Gary, I don't know if this is important. But the bus 60 stops, should we include Bristol Ferry Road and Boyd's Lane? So where it says with stops along East Main and West Main Road, should we include Bristol Ferry Road and Boyd's Lane?
Okay,
Is it
this is the 60 bus or the 61
sig-
bus?
the 60?
The 60, both of
Okay,
them.
Yeah.
fine. I consider, I went back. When you said that there was a 61 bus, I went back and looked at the schedule for that, but I didn't go to look at, are you referring to them on the map or in the narrative?
In the narrative.
Okay,
So 10.9, 10-9.
okay,
Where it says the principal bus route in town is bus 60, which has stops along East Main Road and West Main Road. It also stops, the East Main Road one stops at Boyd's Lane, and the West Main Road stops on Bristol Ferry Road
okay.
several times.
Wherever somebody's standing.
Yeah. well, Could stop several times.
Be happy to change that.
That was the only.
So are we able to adopt the ordinance and make that change? It's minor.
Yes,
Okay. A motion to adopt the ordinance for the comprehensive community plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Capson?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Crosby, for all of those efforts, getting that thing across the finish line. Okay,
Close the public hearing.
we do need a,
Motion to close a public hearing on the comprehensive community plan.
Second.
all those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Capson?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. I wanted that on the record. That's why.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But don't go anywhere because you're up
Okay.
again. Next item is the public
This-
hearing.
Yes, this item is more or less a housekeeping item. We went back, as you know, we signed a memorandum of agreement with the town, with the DEM to try and resolve the notice of violation that we had for us. And the memorandum of agreement, as it was worded, has given us a bit of problems with the enforcement of the term unpermitted systems. We had a number of occasions where people had disputed the fact that they had permitted systems or not and gone up to DEM looking for the documentation. DEM said, I'm sorry, we don't have it. We went back to them and said, wait a minute, how can we enforce something that you're in charge of keeping the documentation and it doesn't exist? And so we proposed to them some amendments to the MOA, which they processed and came up with a agreement that would be the case. We proposed a language for them. We had to adopt the ordinance in order to be able to enforce the MOA. And so they came to us, we proposed language to them. They came back to us and said, that's fine, go ahead. Here's where you need to adopt the ordinance, amend the ordinance. And we did that in 2020. They came back to it. And so we sent that all up to them and they came back to us and say, oh, wait a minute, you need to adopt another piece of the ordinance, amend another piece of the ordinance. And so that's what this is. This is following up to make sure that the ordinance, as I've explained in my memo of explanation here, that the ordinance adopts the same language that we both agreed on with the, in the memo of agreement. So that's what this is here.
Well, this is a public hearing. Are there any comments, questions? Nothing online? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. This will bring the ordinance into agreement with the MOA. And so we'll be,
Not yet.
as we have been for the last 2 years, enforcing the ordinance properly. So thank you.
Motion to
Thank you.
approve the ordinance changes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Let's move on to old business number 3. Mr. Hamilton.
This is just the final presentation of the resolution prepared by the clerk, removing the word absurd and shortening the first paragraph to include information about Portsmouth. So I move that we approve the resolution and send it to our state delegation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, let's move on to new business. New business number 1, it's a request to have a living history event at Butts Hill Fort on November 12th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Nope. Comments?
I was just looking at the,
Oh.
Mr. Woodhead, make sure he was okay with it.
Oh. Okay. So we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. And moving on to our last item here is to request approval for the use of APRA funds to purchase replacement radios for DPW for $142,316.61.
Council President, members of the council. What you had before you is a request for the Public Works radio replacement. Back in November 2021, the council approved the recommended priorities for the America Rescue Plan. And one of the priorities included the replacement of the DPW radios to 800 megahertz for $201,200. I just want to say, after talking to the Assistant Fire Chief Howie Ty, who has a wealth of knowledge for radios, well, we looked into the two options. The first option was moving to the 800 megahertz system, and the second was upgrading to the digital system. And after looking at both types of system, it was clear that moving to the digital system was the most cost-effective way moving forward. The deputy director and I will both have 800 megahertz radio systems in our vehicles that will keep the continuity between the police and fire in case of extreme emergency. So we'll have two radios in our trucks just in case, hurricane. So I would like to request the council to approve the DPW radio replacement to Cybercom for the sum of $142,316.61.
These are for the digital ones. We'll make it back and forth over to Prudence as well.
Correct, because we're going to upgrade Prudence Island also.
Motion.
And then also too, since we're going to move to a digital radio system, we have to upgrade the fire department and the police department. So that price is also included into upgrading their communications in police and fire also.
Excellent.
Second.
No other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar?
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next, we have correspondence.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Future meetings. We get next Monday off.
First time in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Our future meetings, but I say that, but April 25th is our regular meeting, and then we have budget meetings on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, if necessary, followed by our regular council meeting on May 9th. So
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Ms. Abbott? Aye. Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone on the 25th.
25th.